Do vaccines actually cause allergies, asthma, or eczema? Or is this just another myth that refuses to go away? I'm Dr. Mona Amin, a board-certified pediatrician and mom, and today we're breaking down the science behind this common myth so that you can feel confident in your child's health and safety. If you love content that helps you navigate your child's health with confidence, make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss future videos. Let's get into it. This idea likely started because conditions like allergies, eczema, and asthma are common now than they were decades ago. And naturally, people can wonder, could vaccines have something to do with it? It's an understandable question. Some people blame vaccines through the lens of what's called the hygiene hypothesis. This theory suggests that as our modern environments have become cleaner, with fewer germs, fewer parasites, and less exposure to dirt, our immune systems aren't getting the same training they once did. And in the absence of those microbial exposures, the immune system may start overreacting to harmless things like pollen, pet dander, or certain foods, leading to allergies. The hygiene hypothesis is still being studied, but it's a helpful framework for understanding changes in immune development. However, it doesn't mean vaccines are the problem. Vaccines don't reduce microbial exposure in the way that, say, constant use of antibacterial wipes or super sterile environments might. In fact, most children today are still exposed to plenty of microbes through daycare, siblings, pets, outdoor play, and just everyday life, just like we do. Vaccines also don't overwhelm or weaken the immune system. They actually work more like a practice fire drill, teaching the immune system how to respond to specific harmful pathogens without making your child sick. And here's something really important. Some of the infections vaccines prevent against, like RSV and whooping cough, are actually linked to a greater risk of asthma later in life. So by preventing those infections, vaccines may actually protect the immune system from overreacting down the road. In short, the hygiene hypothesis offers some insight into modern immune development, but it doesn't make vaccines the villain. Our kids still get exposed to plenty of microbes, and vaccines are there to help them handle the truly harmful ones safely. And remember, if you're finding this helpful already, take a second to subscribe. I break down myths like these all the time, so you can feel confident in the science and in your parenting. Let's get to the bottom of this. What does the actual science say? Spoiler alert, vaccines are not the villain here. Let's start with the basics. Big, well-done studies have repeatedly found no link between vaccines and asthma, as an example. A 2002 study in the Pediatric Infectious Disease Journal followed over 167,000 children to see if vaccines increased asthma risk. They didn't. In 2021, a meta-analysis in Allergy compared vaccinated and unvaccinated children. The verdict? Vaccines don't increase allergy risk, and some evidence even hinted that vaccines might offer protection from these things. A study in 2023 looked at over 326,000 kids and asked, could aluminum in vaccines increase asthma risk? They found a tiny statistical association, mainly in kids with eczema. But here's the catch. The researchers stressed that this does not mean vaccines cause asthma or eczema. The effect was small and other factors were at play. This study made headlines, but when we look at the full body of research, the message stays the same. Vaccines don't cause allergies, asthma, or eczema. Let's talk about aluminum, since it often comes up in this discussion about vaccines causing allergies or asthma. Aluminum is used in some vaccines as an adjuvant. That means it helps the immune system mount a stronger response to the vaccine, so it can learn to fight the actual disease more effectively. But here's what some anti-vaccine voices claim. They say that aluminum doesn't just boost the immune system, it somehow reprograms the immune system in a way that leads to allergic diseases. Some even go further, suggesting that aluminum makes the immune system hypersensitive to things in the environment like pollen, dust, or even foods, causing lifelong allergies or asthma. One popular theory falsely claims that if aluminum is combined with peanut oil that's in vaccines, hint, peanut oil is not in vaccines, it could sensitize a child to peanuts. Let's break this down. First, there are no vaccines licensed in the United States that contain peanut oil. That's a myth. Second, while aluminum does boost immune response, it doesn't create allergic sensitivity the way these theories suggest. If that were true, we'd see a sharp rise in allergic diseases tied directly to vaccine schedules, but we don't. In fact, large studies show no difference in allergy rates between vaccinated and unvaccinated children. Aluminum-containing vaccines have been used safely in children for more than 70 years. And your child actually gets more aluminum from daily life through breast milk, formula, food, and even in drinking water than from vaccines. If aluminum truly triggered widespread allergic disease, we'd be seeing a clear, measurable pattern in millions of children. But research and clinical experience simply don't support that. So while it's easy to get caught up in scientific sounding claims, it's important to come back to what the evidence actually shows. Aluminum in the amount that they are contained in vaccines is safe, and it's not the cause of the rise in allergies or asthma. The increase in allergies, asthma, and eczema over the past few decades is real, but it's also complex. Experts believe this rise is due to a combination of factors that influence how a child's immune system develops, including changes in early diet, especially how and when allergenic foods are introduced, environmental exposures like increased indoor time, pollution, and less time spent in nature, shifts in the gut microbiome, which can be influenced by repetitive antibiotic use, modern diets that don't have a lot of protein or fiber, and birth by C-section, since babies born via C-section may have different early microbial exposure than those born vaginally. And just to add, I was a C-section baby, and both of my children are C-section babies too. Sometimes it's the safest delivery method, and I am not concerned that you are leading your child down a path of allergies if you had to have a C-section. And as I mentioned before, the hygiene hypothesis, which suggests that with fewer early exposures to a variety of microbes, the immune system may be more likely to overreact to harmless substances like pollen or food proteins. This is still an evolving area of research, and we don't yet fully understand how all of these factors interact. But what we do know is that vaccines are not the cause. So while researchers continue to explore the many modern factors shaping immune development, the evidence still remains clear that vaccines are not to blame for the rise in the allergies and asthma we are seeing. Here's something that often gets missed. Some infections that vaccines protect against are actually linked to a higher risk of asthma and long-term respiratory issues. For example, severe RSV infections in infancy have been strongly associated with a greater risk of developing asthma later in childhood. The same goes for pertussis or whooping cough. Babies who get it early in life are more likely to experience persistent asthma symptoms as they grow. There's also growing evidence around rhinovirus, the common cold virus. Children who have early life wheezing from rhinovirus infections may be more likely to develop asthma, especially if they have an underlying susceptibility. Now, one thing to make clear, we don't fully know if these viruses directly caused asthma or if they simply reveal which children were already going to be prone to wheezing before an official asthma diagnosis. But either way, we know that vaccines reduce the risk of severe illness from many of these respiratory viruses, and that's key to protecting children's long-term lung health. And if this video is giving you the clarity you need, don't forget to subscribe. I've got more videos coming to help you feel informed and empowered in your parenting journey. Now, severe allergic reactions like anaphylaxis to vaccines are real, but they are extremely rare. Current data from the CDC estimates that anaphylaxis occurs in about 1 in a million vaccine doses. For perspective, that's significantly less common than severe allergic reactions to foods or medications. Just like with a new food or medication, we can't always predict how someone will respond to a vaccine the first time. But we do know that these reactions are rare. And when they do happen, they almost always occur within minutes, which is why we monitor after vaccination. Healthcare providers are trained to recognize and treat anaphylaxis immediately, and once a reaction has occurred, steps can be taken to avoid giving that vaccine again, including referral to an allergist and using alternative formulations if needed. It's also important to note that most people with allergies, including those with a history of severe food or medication allergies, can still safely receive vaccines. For example, people with egg allergies can still safely get the flu shot. The CDC no longer recommends any special precautions, even for those with a history of severe egg allergy. So yes, severe allergic reactions to vaccines are possible, but they are incredibly rare, well managed, and not a reason to avoid routine vaccination for children and adults. So what's the big takeaway? Vaccines do not cause allergies, eczema, or asthma. In fact, some of the infections they prevent, like RSV and pertussis, have been linked to a higher risk of asthma later in life. Preventing those illnesses may actually support better long-term respiratory health. Unlike natural infections, which can cause unpredictable immune responses and inflammation, vaccines safely train the immune system to recognize and fight real threats without the risk of severe illness. There's no evidence that vaccines increase the risk of food allergies or eczema. There's no peanut oil in vaccines, and the tiny amount of aluminum used in some vaccines is well studied and safe. Your child gets more aluminum from food, formula, or breast milk than from vaccines. When we look at the full body of research, not headlines or fear-based posts, the message is clear. Vaccines are still one of the safest and most effective ways to protect our children. The immune system isn't weakened by vaccines, it's trained by them. And if you're looking for trustworthy information about vaccines, check out immunize.org or speak with your child's healthcare provider. I also have a vaccine guide that will always remain free, where I will continue to update your most common concerns. And if this helped clear up confusion or gave you peace of mind, share it with another parent and give it a thumbs up sign. Let's keep the conversation going. Drop your questions or concerns in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe. I break down parenting myths and medical topics every week so you can feel more confident in your child's health. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.